Hello everyone. I am Praveen Mahajan from Wifag-Polytype India. On behalf of my team, I welcome you all to the webinar. This webinar is organized by Tube Promotion Council. It is a consortium established recently. The objective of this consortium is to provide a learning platform and technology forum for tube industry. The best part, this forum is open for everyone. The sponsor of the event is Wifag-Polytype India. Group Wifag-Polytype is active in two business areas, plastic packaging and metal packaging. We'll hear about the product lines during the presentation. And one more point, though we are expert in tube line, but we are novice in webinar. In fact, this is our first webinar. So there might be some lapses, some network issues, some communication errors. So kindly bear with us. So going ahead, tube packaging is one of the fastest growing segment in packaging industry. For those who are new to the subject, our panelists will cover the entire spectrum, right from the material that is used to make tube, the manufacturing process, the decoration methods, and the end application of the tube. Also will be covered the innovation, trends, and technology development in field of tubes. The theory part will be complemented by a virtual tour of tube manufacturing line. The best part is that we will be going to Bulgaria to see the tube manufacturing line without leaving our homes. After the tour, we have a question answer session to address your queries. I request all of you to keep sending your questions in chat box. In case if we run out of time and if we cannot cover all your queries, in that case, you please email your queries and we'll revert to you. So let's begin. Our first panelist is Mr. Praveen Bhatia. A brief introduction. He is director of Wifag-Polytype India. He has a rich experience of 30 years in packaging industry. He has a unique combination of skill set. Being CA by education and having good know-how in packaging industry, he has helped many entrepreneurs to set up projects in packaging segment. Today, he is going to share his knowledge of Indian tube industry, both in technical and commercial aspect. Many of you will be interested in knowing the market size and growth potential of Indian tube industry. Mr. Bhatia will cover these points in his presentation. Welcome, Mr. Bhatia. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahajan, and good afternoon to everybody. And I'm very thankful from my heart that everybody could spare some time and attend this webinar. As is explained earlier, that we are specialists in tube machines and tube packaging, but we are not specialists in this webinars and all. But we are trying to do the best and give you the knowledge, whatever we have. Let me introduce the word of packaging organization is the big slogan is there, better quality of life through better packaging. In the next slide, you can see that. The packaging industry in India is predicted to grow around 18% annually, with the flexible packaging is growing around 25% and the rigid packaging is growing around 15%. And this drives to billion-dollar market to investigate the future of the packaging industry in India. And in this COVID time also, this packaging industry is doing a wonderful. And actually, in this time, in the COVID time, the packaging industry really served the nations. Packaging is the 5th largest sector of India's economy and one of the highest growth sector of the country. The Indian plastic tube market is also around 114 million in 2018. And it's anticipated to grow around 8.3% during the forecast period. Next. In India, the tube packaging industry is a combination of both organized and unorganized. When I say organized and unorganized, there are a lot of small players in the cosmetic and other markets. So, and unorganized players are also there when some people start with the cosmetic or other industry in a small manner. So practically we say it's unorganized markets. And there is a lot of small player, is a less presence in the country, and the large player is having a significant market share in the country and the vice versa. But whereas the large player always give a new boost to the small players. And tube is a very innovative and a cost effective. The presence of these multinational firms are always encouraged to launch a plastic tube and LAMITUBE in a cosmetic and pharma food products. Even when we say the China market is around 27 billion as compared to India, which stands to around 6 billion. China and India is comparable. It's comparable in the population, but if you see the per capita consumption of the cosmetic product is far high in China and rising. And India is also growing in that respect because in India, there are a lot of rising disposable income level, urbanization, and the growth of organized retail, which led to demand to innovative and attracting packaging concepts in India. And FMCG market in India is also growing and is reaching, the estimate is it's going to reach around 103.7 billion by 2021. Next. The Indian market has a big potential. If you recently see, there's a lot of herbal products are coming into the market. And the biggest example is Patanjali and Dabur. These are the two players which is driving force for Indian tube market, and which a lot of demands are there from this market. And you will be surprised in this COVID-19 time, there's a lot of companies, there were a lot of tube customers has put hand sanitizer into the tube. This is entirely a new market. And in e-commerce market, which is a big market which is coming, where the retail packaging sector is grown around 65 million monthly unique visitors are there, and the accumulation is annual increase of 55%. And in this way, the foreign investor is also looking for a tube packaging is a big investment hub in India. And recently, everybody knows the Blackstone has invested a big amount in SM Propack Limited. So this is a brief of Indian market, which can see that. Now, I would like to explain, because in my group here, there are a lot of people who are here who are doesn't know much about the tubes. Some people may be here who are very expert in the tubes, but I will briefly explain how this process starts. First, I will start with the laminated tube. Laminated tubes are mainly which is used in the toothpaste and the shaving creams. Laminating is a process when you join two flexible sheets together with a bonding agent or can create some barrier. Barrier means whether it's aluminum foil or some chemical which creates a barrier so that the oxygen proximity should not be there. And normally the substrate of the sheets are film or LLDP and aluminum foil. In the general term, the adhesive is applied to less absorbent substrate wet after the second web is pressed to produce a 2-layer or 3 to 5 layer this thing. And in India, a lot of people who are only specializing in making a laminate, especially the companies like Uflex, Shrirama, Huhtamaki, and many more. Next. As I mentioned, there's a laminate. Laminate is two types of laminate. One is a ABL laminate, which is called aluminum barrier laminate. And a second is a plastic barrier laminate. When we talk about the ABL tube, which is ABL is mainly used for pharma, toothpaste, and shaving creams. Aluminum is the best barrier. So that's why it preserves the product from a light and oxygen moistures. If you see on the side, this gives the basic composition of the laminate. And ABL tubes gives the good collapsible and a durable effect and a desirable where the precise depending on the product is required. ABL tubes are mainly is used where the barrier is required, like toothpaste, pharmaceutical, and FMCG. The next. Second one is a plastic barrier laminate, which is again here. If you see on this picture, there's instead of aluminum foil, there's a EVOH. This is a kind of another barrier, which gives the barrier into the plastic laminate. And this kind of packaging is more popular in the cosmetic segments like face wash, creams, and it is a very environment friendly. Next. Yeah. If you see the basic small process, ultimately this process you're going to see in the end of the Meter will take you to the factory. But the basic process is you first have a laminate, then you get it laminate printed, and after the laminate printed, you make the tube body, and there's a one shoulder, which you can make it in an injection molding machine. And after the shoulder being fitted in a tube body, and then after the body, then there's a cap is there, you put the cap on the tube, and then the complete tube is ready, which can be delivered to the customer as it is. And the customer fills the tube from the back, because the back side is opening, and it will give it to the customers. Next. Yeah. Another kind of tube is a plastic tube. You know, the difference between is that in a laminated tube, you will always find a seam. There's always joint on the tube. Whereas the plastic extrusion tube, it is being extruded in a pipe shape from the machine itself. There's no joint in the tube. And that is what it is called a plastic extruded tube body is formed from the extrusion. Plastic tubes are also extruded from a monolayer, like there's no barrier in this, or it can be a multi-layer, like in a LAMITUBE, you have a EVOH barrier. Here also you have the EVH barrier. Multi-layer option includes the 2-layer sleeves and the 5-layer options and the monolayer and SDP sleeves. There are some more technicalities there. When anybody is more interested in knowing about the more technicalities, our team is always available to explain that. If you see the structure of the plastic tube, that is also mentioned here. Here also the inner LLDP, the die resin, the EVOH barrier, the outer and LLDP. And extruded tubes are being used for a high-end and the low-volume product in the range of industry like cosmetic and food industry. Whereas the cosmetic always go for a good amount of packaging. That's why most of the people prefer the extruded tubes for the cosmetic industry. Next. This is the basic process. As I explained to you, that's first you have to extrude, then you do the heading, then you do the printing, then you do the capping, and then you sealing. The sealing post is normally being done at the end of the customer, which is when they fill the product and seal it and supply it to the customer. So this is the basic idea of the laminated tube and the plastic tube. So rest of the things, anybody who is more interested to know about the tube industry and other things, we are always there. Thank you. Over to Praveen.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatia. It was a nice presentation. Dear attendees, if you have questions, please send it in the chat box. Our next panelist is the packaging guru with 40 years of experience, Mr. Deepak Manchanda. After working as head of packaging for Oriflame, Silvero, Dabur India, Ranbaxy, he has now associated with Packaging Consortium, which is a packaging development consultancy. He has worked closely with Jindal Polyfilm for application development of specialty films for flexible packaging. He is also closely associated with Michelin USA. Now he is packaging consultant for some of the reputed companies. He is a graduate of engineering from BITS Pilani and postgraduate diploma from Milan, Italy in human factor engineering. Mr. Manchanda,
I think he's
welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Praveen. Yeah. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Praveenji, for the introduction to tube manufacturing. In my side of the presentation, I want to talk about how the choice of tube as a packaging format works much more to the advantage compared to other forms of packaging as rigid packaging or other forms of packaging. So I'll make a brief presentation on what it means to use tube packaging and where all it can be used, what kind of market segments it can be used. So can you make it on slideshow? Yeah. So in my presentation, I'm saying tube or not tube, which is actually reflecting back on Hamlet's popular quote, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune or to take arms against a sea of troubles. Take the next slide. Next slide. So to tube or not to tube. So when we are actually at the user end, when we are actually planning to package toothpaste, face wash, shampoo, skin cream, lotions, ointments, or ketchup or jam, we have to always consider whether it can be packed in a bottle or a jar or a tube. So whether the tube will actually be to the advantage in the market, that is what we are talking about here. The next slide. This is just an overview. It gives an idea of how big the tube market is for cosmetics, oral care, food and beverage, and pharma. If you combine all these three segments of the market, almost 3/4 of the market is governed by cosmetics and food and beverage only for tubes. It just gives you a scale to what tube packaging is popular. Next slide. So the choice between rigid containers and collapsible tubes. Rigid, of course, a lot of people choose rigid containers for packaging products because it's available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Brand differentiation in product design, packaging design, you can get some brand differentiation. It's easy to procure in low minimum order quantities. It's easier to test launch new products with low initial sales forecast in rigid containers. And it's got easy filling and labeling of bottles and jars. But on the other hand, collapsible tubes are available only in, say, these cylindrical shapes, but they give you so many other advantages, which we'll see in the subsequent slides. Next slide. So trends, if you look at it worldwide, brand owners are moving away from rigid packaging in favor of tubes. Beauty products, personal care, and hair care in particular are particularly fond of using tubes, seamless plastic tubes particularly. And here is a quote from the vice president of SL ProPack, who's saying, "We have seen many popular global brands moving from rigid packaging to flexible extruded tube packaging, reaping the benefits of excellent barrier properties, increase in product shelf life, ease of use, and ability of the package to retain smoothness, flexibility, and softness." Next slide, please. So the types of tubes. It started with aluminum tubes. Those of us who are old enough will remember toothpaste used to be coming in toothpaste tube in collapsible aluminum tubes, and they would stay. They had this problem of dead fold. If you squeeze one, the dent remains forever. And now you have plastic tubes which have the spring back feature, which is a great advantage because the package keeps looking fresh. The distinction between PE tubes and LAMITUBEs has now begun to blur with the arrival of EVOH barrier LAMITUBEs, which offers good spring back and transparency features of PE. You will have seen this in a lot of Colgate and Pepsodent tubes. Next slide, please. So how do we differentiate between one brand and one product compared to another? It's really by selection of diameter to length ratios, whatever product capacity we want to pack, whether we want the pack to look thin and long or we want it to look short and stout. So these are the various proportions in diameters and lengths that can be achieved with the help of the dimensioning of the tube. And then of course, surface texture, color, these are the additional features by which differentiation can be added to the tube packaging. Sometimes transparent tubes, because you can actually show the product inside, there are sparkle effects and glitter effects, which you might have seen in toothpastes which are added. Next slide. The biggest advantage is that tubes, unlike rigid containers, can be sourced from one organized single source supply. So which means that you can get a tube which is got the cap on it. The cap doesn't have to be separately sourced, and the cap is pre-torqued, that is properly tightened so that it doesn't get loose. There's no chance of any product leakage after filling. And the direct printing tubes, the direct printed tubes are an advantage because there is no need for labeling on the tube later. Next slide, please. The barrier properties and profile seal. This is an important feature of modern tubes. Now, in order to create shelf shelf differentiation, you can have profile sealing, which you will see in this yellow color tubes on the right side, or the lotus tube, where it is not just a straight line seal at the back, but it's also profile to try to give some design and mood to the product. And similarly, you can have barrier layers so that you can have better protection for products which don't have that many preservatives and which are sensitive to the environment. But with barrier layers, you can achieve a lot. Right. Next slide, please. The biggest advantage of tubes is the convenience of dispensing. You have a range of possibilities in tubes in terms of caps, flip tops, tethered caps, these nozzle caps, and now you also have these airless pump dispensers, which are better for the cosmetic products. So this the easy dispensing convenience is one of the biggest advantages that tube packaging offers. Next. Decoration systems have been improving through the years, and today you find tubes decorated with photorealistic print capabilities, and you find a lot of big brands have chosen metallized finishes or foiling. So these are all devices to make the tube packaged product look different from the other competitive product. Next. Next slide, please. Modern print decoration techniques can offer so much more so much more creative opportunity. This is what differentiates the tube-packed product from a rigid container with a label on it, which has a limited possibility, especially in plastics where the labels addition to the rigid pack may be doubtful. Next, please. One more thing, sorry, just go back. Just go back to the previous slide. We must mention that this at the end also about digital printing on tubes, because this is a new emerging technology, and digital printing has become possible to some extent on tubes, and that will be quite a game changer in terms of allowing you shorter runs. Next, please. So in India, there are just a few handful of seamless PE tube manufacturers with an estimated installed capacity of say 50 million tubes. This probably is a figure which can be corrected by the others here. The opportunity for tubes to gain market share by creative product innovation, seizing the market business opportunity appears to be huge. So tube packaging can be a pipeline to profits. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak-ji.
Next.
Dear attendees, if you have questions, please send it in the chat box. Our next panelist is Mr. Alan Bassett. He is with Polytype for last 21 years, and he is the CEO of the company since 2015. His educational background is he is a mechanical engineer and an MBA. Mr. Alan is going to talk about the global scenario of LAMITUBE segment. Welcome, Mr. Alan.
Thank you, Praveen. So I wish you a good afternoon and all my best greetings from Switzerland first. During my presentation, I will have a short presentation of the Wifag-Polytype group. Also would like to present you the portfolio product we do in the group. And at the end, I will show you the trend in decoration and the trend in tube more from the European and North American side. Next. Okay, so the Wifag-Polytype group is owned by a foundation because our ex-owner, when she passed away, she has no children, so she created a foundation, and this is a unique shareholder we have in the group. It's the same system as Rolex has been done in Switzerland, for example. Today, the group is split in two business units. We have the business unit plastic and the business unit metal. With different companies and different tasks inside. As example, here you see Polytype America and Wifag-Polytype India. These two companies are more specialized in sales and service to be closer to the customer, to the market, to understand the need, and also when customers get machines to provide the service. If we would go to the next company like Polytype Pacific in Bangkok or OMB in Verona, Italy, or Mechatronica in Bulgaria, and Polytype in Switzerland, these companies are a complete company with research and development division. We make assembly, manufacturing, etc., etc. And we have the same on the BU metal, which is more dedicated on metal packaging. So the group, as you can read, is a group of 600 people, and we do a turnover, a revenue of 180 million US dollar. Next. So here you see some companies which we have in the world, as mentioned before. But what I would like to tell you here is our philosophy is think global, but act local. This is why we established some companies like in India, in US, etc., is really to be closer to our customer and understand the need of the market. Next. Okay, so here I come back to the two business units, and I can show you what is the competencies or what kind of technology we can provide in the group. In the business unit plastic, through OMV, we can make extrusion and thermoforming machine. Through the company Polytype in Switzerland or in Thailand, we can make printing machine for cups or tubes. We can also provide a capping machine for tubes. And the last one is LAMINATE machine. This is provided by our company in Bulgaria, Mechatronica. On the business unit metal, we have here three main products, which is aluminum tubes as the first one. We can also produce aerosol cans, and as the last one, the aluminum bottle. The advantage of the BU metal here, as you can see, we can provide equipment from the extrusion to the necking, means we can really provide turnkey project to customers. Next. So as mentioned, I will more focus on Polytype side here. So Polytype has been the printing specialist since more than 60 years now. And this is an example of our portfolio for tube printing machine. As you see in this chart, we can provide machine at this from speed from 80 tubes per minute until 300 per minute. We can also cover the full range of diameter from 13.5 to 66 even. And as the last one, if you see the decorating technology available on the Polytype portfolio, we have been starting many years ago with the dry offset, and now since 10 years, we develop different technology like flexo, screen printing, hot stamping, and recently we designed a digital printing machine as well. As mentioned in the previous slide, we also provide everything which is related to the cap. So capping machine, membrane sealing, etc., etc. Really to provide a finished tube to the potential customer. Next. So this is more a view of, again, from Europe and North America. It could be a slightly different in India or in Asia. But what was the trend the last 5 years? of course, like 10 years ago, plastic tube was only printed by offset and screen. And after that, flexo came, and the last 5 years, we really have a push in the multi-decoration system. Labeling has been reduced every year and really replacing with this multi-decoration process. Why before it was labeling quite attractive is because this label was printed on flat with different print technology like screen, flexo, hot stamping, etc. But now with the new machine we can provide, we can also produce this print direct this multi-decoration on tube. So this is why we have a big market segment now which use multi-decoration. And the beauty of today is this can be done on one machine and not like maybe in the past where you had to go through several machines and it was quite difficult to make a right logistic and to get the right number of tube you would need at the end. Next. So here I want to share with you some data we have about the packaging, on the tube packaging. And after, it was already shown this on the previous presentation on the different markets. So today, what is positive in the tube market? So every type of tube had a growth, but a different rate of growth, of course. Here you can see the plastic tube. According to some studies and analysis we got, we are talking about 5 to 7% growth. After you have the two laminate tubes we discussed before. One is a plastic biolaminate with a big growth of 8 to 10% here in this side. And the second one is the ABL, the aluminum biolaminate. It's still a growth, but here I put a star because especially in some area in Europe, this packaging is under pressure because of the recycle process. If you have this tube, you would have a layer of aluminum, a layer of plastic. So when you would take this packaging back, it's more difficult to make a recycling process. So this is why in some area or in some countries, we see maybe a decline for this type of packaging. But this is most of the time, this is for toothpaste, but that toothpaste will move to PBL or plastic tube or aluminum tubes. And the last one, aluminum tube, we also see the last 2-3 years, again, a growth coming back because this was very flat in the past, but now we can feel again a growth also in this packaging. So if I go to the market now, or where these tubes are used now, and this is information which we got from the ETMA. This is a European Tube Manufacturing Association for Europe. So the biggest market for tube today is still the cosmetic, with nearly 50%. And most of the cosmetic tube in Europe are made with plastic tube or extruded tube first. Now is a growth also, as we say, in laminate, but of course PBL, and for some case, sometimes aluminum tube as well. The second biggest market is pharma, and this pharma market is used most of the time in Europe for aluminum tube and sometimes with laminate. This is a question of barrier because the aluminum tube has the best barrier for the product inside. The third one is a toothpaste with 20%. And here is nearly 100% of the market covered by laminate today. We were talking about the food market as well. In Europe, you can find very easily mustard or mayonnaise. You have tomato sauce in aluminum tube. This is very common. Now we can see in the supermarket as well some ketchup sauce or barbecue sauce coming in a plastic tube or PBL tube as well. And the last market is also all in industry with 5%. So here is covered most of the time by plastic tube as well. with the exception of every glue. The glue, if you have small tube in the glue in the tube, most of the time that one are with aluminum tubes. So the summary of this market and trend is market is very attractive. We see growth everywhere. We see opportunity everywhere. This is of course numbers for US and Europe, but my message here is for you, if you are an Indian manufacturer, it gives you also a good chance to make exports to these countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Coming next is Mr. Mrinal Banerjee, popularly known as MK. He is working with SL Propack as Director Special Project. Earlier, MK has been handling SL Propack's creativity and innovation department. MK and his team are responsible for substrate formulation, process and product innovation, new product introduction, and patent registration. Electrical and instrumental engineer by profession, MK has been associated with packaging industry for last 38 years, out of which he is with SL for 35 years. His area of expertise includes product process innovation, sustainable package design, regulatory compliances, and product stewardship. He is attached with various prestigious national organizations such as Bureau of Indian Standards, PDC 21, and convener of committee responsible for drafting standard for HDPE squeezable multi-use recyclable tube. Mr. Banerjee is ex-governing body member of Indian Institute of Packaging. Welcome, Mr. Banerjee.
Thank you very much, Praveen. Yeah, it is a long time, and with SL Packaging, you know, it is almost like 3 decades I have worked here. Can you present my slides? Yeah, you know, I have seen, you know, from the beginning, SL started in 1984, and initially it was multi-collaboration with American National Can, and then KMK, that time in Switzerland, tube machine manufacturers, and also the art of making laminate. It was from phytochemicals, Japan. And also from Japan, we got printing technology, which was then letterpress, but with the UV ink. So from the beginning only, I mean, I'm talking about 84 onward, we started using UV curing ink. So there's no solvent at all. And the first, when I joined, I was surprised that printing department doesn't have any odor or solvent smell. It was, you know, air conditioned and neat and clean and no smell. So that was the beginning of SL technology. Next slide, please. Okay, prelude. These are a little bit about, you know, how the LAMITUBE started. It is around 50s when LDPE and HDPE was invented. And the first tube design, it was by American National Can. And Colgate was the first company to adopt this LAMITUBE. Before that, it was aluminum tube with the lacquer inside. Now, all plastic tube, that means without aluminum foil and also without paper. It started in 1990. In fact, next to Aluminium National Can, from whom we got the know-how, by 87 that was done. It was initial 5 years exclusivity contract and all this. In 90, we developed our first non-foil aluminum tube. And interestingly, SL is the first to introduce a polyester layer, BOPET, biaxially oriented PET, which has a good oxygen barrier and flavor barrier also. But instead of outside, like flexible packaging, I put it, you know, why I say I am the inventor of that. And we put it in the core of the structure. That means it was backed up by PE outer and also clear PE in the inner. So it was PE, barrier, PE, and this structure is still going strong because PET is very cost effective in India, and it has a nice barrier for most of the cosmetics. Of course, recyclability and other things, those are question now, that I'll come little later. Now, as I said, letterpress printing, that was the first we adopted. But now going forward, we have Flexo with the combination printing, but on the flatbed itself. So laminated tube, as you know, it has a side seam, and also laminated tube has a little, you can say, in terms of aesthetic part, it has a gap between front and back panel at the side seam. So you'll find around 4 to 5 millimeter on either side of the side seam, a white space. That was the limitation. Now that have been overcome. So I'll discuss that when I go to the trend. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the overall market, what we understand. These are all from internet research only, because I cannot give too much of precise figure, not allowed to give. So around 24 billion tube market on laminated tube. Interestingly, I have not added here Neopak because Neopak also, it is a very unique tube where they have aluminum foil base, the basic core. On that, they have a all polyethylene sheathing like plastic tube. So side seam is there, but it is buried inside. But on the surface, you can do offset printing also. So those are very unique tube, and they have very special application like pharma and high-end cosmetics. Interestingly, those tubes are covered under patent, so you cannot copy those. So though there is huge market demand, but because it is covered by the intellectual property, people cannot copy those. And these are worldwide coverages there. So these are Neopak, Switzerland there. Now, over and above this 24 billion, now there is interesting that Colgate family globally in-house they produce around 3 to 3.5 billion tubes, their own captive consumption. So that is not available for any tendering and all these things. So in India, of course, Colgate we supply over 1 billion tube in India, but in China, in Mexico, in Brazil, Colgate, they make their own tube, and the laminate also, they make their own laminate. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are business categories are there. Is already my predecessor, they have already discussed that. Now, oral care, dental glue, these are big market. Unlike global market, India, it is around, the oral and non-oral care, if we divide, it is 50-50, almost. So, critical tube in India, it has gone over 1 billion tubes. And mainly it is OTC, gel, cream, lotions, and also some of the RX ointment. These are there. And the structures are predominantly aluminum foil based, and few in plastic barrier. Food segment, these are also, quite a big this has huge export potential. Condiments, that means different curry and spice in the paste form, tomato sauce, bread spread, condensed milk, honey, liquid jaggery. These are some of the things are very easily available in the market, covering various states and that. So these are the category that tube packaging it is serving at this moment. Now, trend. Now, as I said, trend mainly in all the segments. Interestingly, in oral care also, because of regulatory compliance and new standard, aluminium is multi-layer plastic, and multi-family laminated structures are slowly going down, and what is emerging as all plastic but single family polymer based structures here, like HDP tube with a longer shelf life, with a little barrier, typically 3 to 4%, less than 5% barrier material like EVOH. So those are getting popular for oral care as well as for cosmetics and the food also. Now, aluminum foil will be there for pharmaceutical still. So in BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard, we have foil-based structure specification and all this. So that will be mainly applicable for pharma at this moment. But going forward, another couple of months, you'll find that other than pharmaceutical product, foil-based structure will be restricted, very much restricted there. Another trend is any structure we do, including tube, shoulder, and closure. This has to go to the recycle stream, and it has to come to the circular economy. So that means tube body has to be, if it is a code 2, it has to be HDPE. Shoulder is anyway HDPE. Even if you develop some inner barrier liner, that also has to be at least 95% plus HDPE, so that everything goes to recycling stream. Caps are predominantly polypropylene because flip design and all this become easier. But I can tell you that the work is on that the caps are including flip top caps or tabletop caps. Those are being designed with the special HDPE with the high environmental stress crack, and also with the better hinge property. So entire tube can go to code 2 recycling stream. So these are the trend, and already they are round the corner, and also ready. Some company like SL, they already have this product on this. Another trend I have not written here, but I can narrate that. There are tube which is, they call it in-beam tube. So in-beam is, the seam is there, but you cannot see it. That means the seam, and with the full printing, 360-degree printing, during the side seaming, it flows side by side, but they have a cutting angle almost like 45 degree. And then when it is pressed and put a heat and pressure, the polymer flow, it crosses each other, so that the side seam is there, but you cannot see it. That's why it is called invisible seam. So those technologies are available now, and those are very popular, mainly for cosmetic tubes and all. Any other? Okay, that was my little bit slide and all this. I'd love to have more questions, if any.
Thank you, MK. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next participant, our next panelist is Mr. Miro. He's the managing director of Combis or Mechatronica. He will take us to a virtual tour of a production line. Miro, over to you.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, in fact, it will be my colleague, his name is also Miro, who will give this tour, because I'm fortunately not in the company. But just briefly to explain what our company is doing. As our says, we are part of a Polytype group, but we are doing machines for making laminated tubes, only laminated tubes, both ABL and PBL types. We have smaller speed, let's say something like 60 tubes a minute, up to 300 tubes a minute machines. Different speed, different range, big variation in type of caps, orientation of cap, orientation, all these options which are required, we do. But this is only laminated tubes. And technology which we are using is what we call pre-molded shoulders. So shoulders are made before, usually injection molding. Could be also compression, but they are made before, then placed on the machine, and then sealed to the body. So this is type of machines which we are currently producing for many years, of course. We have a big part of the market. And we are now developing some different technologies for shoulders, for side seam, but generally technology for tube making, laminated tube making didn't change that much through the years. Yes, we are talking about innovation, but unfortunately, tube as such is good enough, and more innovations are in terms of decorations, efficiency of machine, simplicity of operation. This is very important, in fact, I think, because tube making, especially laminated tube making, is not so simple. Yes, it's one machine that is doing everything, but it needs a lot of setting, because you need to change frequently sizes, type of caps, type of whatever. So one direction in which we are working is also to make machine as simple as possible, to allow easy training for operators and more people to be able to operate. So this is in general. I think it's best to just to present one machine very briefly. Of course, we don't have much time. We decided just to present one machine which we have at the moment in the company. This almost ready machine for dispatch. So my colleague, as I said, his name is also Miro, will just do brief presentation of technology and machine on the real machine, not just on the paper. So can you switch to him? Hello.
Hello, everyone. I will now guide you through the tube making process on the machine. There are three main components that are required to produce the tube. And this is the printed laminate, which comes rolled onto a roll, shoulders, and caps. The printed laminate has different design and therefore has different lengths. Also, the machine is capable of producing different diameters, from diameter 16 to diameter 50, also working with different types of shoulders, even oval-shaped tubes, not only cylindrical, oval-shaped as well, and different, all type of different caps you can imagine, push-on, flip-on, winding caps, and so on. The main principle behind the working of the machine is that it uses those three pieces, caps, shoulders, and laminate, to produce the finished product, which is the tube ready to be filled. Now, this is what the whole machine looks like, the whole complex, and it can roughly be divided into three separate parts. The first part, the unwinding part, where the printed laminate is loaded. Then we have the body making part, which I will go into detail shortly, and the tube making part. So as I said, on the unwinding part, the laminate is being loaded and it looks like a sheet. Through the unwinding part, it is being trimmed and guided to be fed into the body making part. The body making part, the job it does is to produce from this sheet-like material to form it into a cylinder and side seam it to make sealing, to make it into a cylinder. Now, as my colleague said, there are two materials used in tube making. This is ABL and PBL. The machine is capable of running both materials, and there are different technologies to do that, but no matter what technology is used, the end result is the same. On the body making part, we have this very long cylindrical pipe-like laminate, which is then cut into the proper length depending on the design required. Now, what you see on the machine installed is a blank laminate because currently we are testing the machine. But in normal conditions, you will have a printed laminate with a design, which, as I said, on the rotary cutter, we will be cutting to the correct length, and it will be transferred to the tube making part of the machine, the last part of the machine, which is combining all three elements into one thing. So the first thing, here we have the shoulder feeding system, the shoulder station, which loads shoulders on those mandrels. The second thing that we add is the body itself that we have produced on the body maker. After that, we go to the shoulder welding station. Depending on the materials, we have different shoulder welding stations, but here is the place where the shoulder is being welded to the body. Now the machine has the possibility to be added a separate module here, which can add aluminum membrane to the shoulder if the product inside requires it. The last thing that is being added to the tube is the caps. Again here, similar to the shoulder station, we have the capping station, which feeds caps and loads them onto the already welded shoulder. No matter what the cap, the station can mount any cap you can imagine. The only thing you need to change is this module depending on the different types of caps. Now, after the cap is mounted onto the tube, it exits the machine, and after that the tube is ready to be manipulated on other machines. Now my colleague will help me and start the machine to make a short live demonstration of how the machine works so that you get more clear what I have been talking about. What is happening right now is we're waiting for the heater, which makes the shoulder welding, to heat up, because currently the machine is running with PBL material, plastic, which requires hot air to weld the shoulder to the body. As soon as the temperature is reached, we are ready to start. As you can see, printed laminate being unwinded, print. After that, set to the body maker, where we make the cylinder. We put it into separate bodies. Weld it, exiting the machine. Maybe. I hope that was informative. And thank you.
Thank you, Miru. It was nice to get away from home and visit Bulgaria after 3 months of lockdown. Now, let me introduce you to another veteran of the tube industry, Mr. Arvind Narang. Mr. Narang is CEO of Wifag-Polytype India. Under his captainship, Wifag-Polytype has installed many tube projects at our esteemed customers' premises. He has done his engineering and MBA from prestigious schools in India. He is going to be your host for the question and answer sessions. Welcome, Mr. Narang.
Thank you, Praveen. I take this opportunity to welcome all the participants and thank all the esteemed panelists. We have received multiple questions, but I think we are running short. So in case I'm not able to answer few of the questions, don't take it differently. Just feel free to contact us on the mail. So I'll just run through the questions which we have received. One question we have received from Ms. Kajal Anand. Ma'am, welcome to the webinar. During lockdown, it so happened I was attending your webinar, and it's a great privilege to now share our information with you. You have asked for what kind of investment will be required. So for a LAMITUBE plant of around 100 tubes per minute, ABL and PBL, we are talking about an investment of around 5 crores. So this will have an output of around 100 tubes per minute, and monthly you can say more than 3 million tubes. Your another question comes regarding this thing development with glass and plastic laminate. As of now, whatever information I have, there is nothing much happening of mixing glass and the laminate, this combination. There is a question from Shekhar whether InViSeam and DecoSeam is same. Boss, DecoSeam, we call it a butt welding. There is a strip inside at the joint, so that is a butt welding. But in InViSeam, we are trying to minimize the overlap so that the seam is not visible. So both the concepts are different. Then there is one question from Mr. Arun Balerao regarding possibility of digital printing on the rigid packaging. It is very much possible. Polytype is already selling it. It is commercially visible, and we have already installed machines for digital printing on rigid cups and containers. Then Mr. Sarthak Agarwal, he would like to know about the future of LAMITUBE and the competition. I'm sure with a lot of information being shared by the esteemed panelists like Mr. Banerjee, Mr. Nalchanda, those who have deep insights in the Indian industry. So the project is completely viable. Just to make it more, I haven't come across any guy in tube industry, either in lami or plastic, who has failed. Everybody has grown over the years, so I think that speaks itself about the industry. There is space for everyone. The market, cosmetic market is growing, LAMITUBE market is growing. Both are, as it has been pointed out. In fact, during lockdown, I was reading data somewhere by Indian Advertising Association. So the most downloads during lockdown, first thing was food recipe, the second thing was devotionals, and the third thing was how to take care of yourself regarding cosmetic, do it yourself regarding your beauty and maintenance. So this was rated third after food recipes, devotion. This was the most searched websites on the Google during lockdown. Now, Mr. Nikhil wants to know counterfeiting about the artwork and everything. Mr. Nikhil, since it is very easy, I mean, the Polytype comes out with very you can implement those printing solutions. Counterfeiting is not possible. We have machines which can do, as Ellen pointed out, we have machines which can do offset printing along with foiling, along with screen. So this is not possible to counterfeit. So it's only thing you have to come out with a design which nobody will be able to match. Okay. Ma'am, I'll certainly call you Then we have Mr. Chetan Sharma, who say about the environmental future. See, I can't match the expertise of LN and Mr. Banerjee, but whatever I have learned, even in extruded tubes, HDP tubes are going to be the fashion. They will be monolayer. There is no threat. All the multinationals are focusing on reducing the plastic consumption. So maybe they'll reduce the thickness from 460 micron to maybe 350. They may come to monolayer, but all the machines, the industry, the capital investment which you are going to do is say for next 10, 15 years, that is for sure. As far as the LAMITUBE is concerned, so there is a lot of talk going on about switching from ABL to PBL. As Mr. Banerjee pointed out, that the pharma is going to stay in ABL. So luckily in our industry, see, SL is a big player. So their experiences may be slightly different, but most of our customers who are having 1 machine, 2 machine, 3 machine, they are surviving on pharma. Pharma is growing like crazy. So as it is, that focus is confirmed. On top of that, our machine has the ability to do PBL also. So even if worst comes to worst, your investment is absolutely safe. You can make both ABL and PBL on our machines. Now, Mr. Chandrasekhar says again PBL and ABL again. What is the future? This churning has been going on in the industry for last 4 or 5 years. I think more or less the debate is settled. I find Himalaya, all their exports are in plastic tube, and their domestic are using. If you want to see, the Himalaya came out with this tube. It's purely, this has done extremely well, fresh start. This, so their neem face wash is in a different, this thing. Can you see me? No. Yeah, I was talking about, yeah, sorry. So this is Himalaya. They have launched this new product, I think around 1 year back. This has come out in seamless. Same way, if you look at direct gel, the shaving cream, lower end shaving cream is in LAMI. And gel is in plastic. So personally, I feel segments are here to stay. They will coexist. L'Oreal also, for personally, I feel both the industries. L'Oreal also, for both the industries. I think. Then I have a question from Pakistan, our friend. He has asked about some technical details. So we'll get back to you, Mr. Habib. You have asked about the sealing and what material to use in which layer. I think that is not of interest right now in this seminar. Mr. Pandey, your question is what kind of wastages we are talking about in the industry, in LAMITUBE industry. See, more or less it will depend on the batch size, but if you have a decent batch size, it should be less than 1%. This is our experience on our machine. And more or less, see, if it is a question of 5,000 tubes, of course, the wastages percentages will vary. But it less than 1%, this has been observed, and this has been our customers' demand also to make sure that the wastages are minimized. So I think try to answer most of the questions. Feel free to contact us. We know a bit about Indian market, and the project is totally, I'll say there is space for growth. So that is the maximum. If you have any more questions, we are free to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Mr. Naran. Dear participants, thank you all for being with us during this session. We had some technical glitches, but you were kind enough to bear it with us. Thank you for your time. If you have unanswered questions, please email it to us. We'll revert to you shortly. Our contact details will be on the screen. It will be an honor to have to talk to you. Please contact us. Indrajit, our contact details, please.
And I would like to add, thanks a lot. You spared the time for us, and it was a first attempt. And please encourage us for the future webinars. And I'm very, very thankful. I have seen at that time we were crossed around more than 100 participants during the show. And I'm very, very thankful to everybody personally from my heart. Thanks a lot. And you can contact us for any of the questions, any of the doubt if you have. We have the team where we can serve you in a much, much better manner and reply you personally. And once this lockdown is over and the things are eased up, and we'll be there to meet you also. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.